Every night when the world fell into deep slumber, while others dreamed ordinary dreams of flying or falling, Elena would rise from her bed with eyes still closed and walk through her house like a ghost guided by invisible hands. But Elena's sleepwalking was unlike anything doctors had ever documented. She didn't just wander aimlessly through her home. She was tending to a garden that existed only when she was asleep, a magical space where all the dreams people had forgotten were kept alive and growing. Elena had been a sleepwalker since childhood, but it wasn't until she moved into her grandmother's old cottage that her nighttime wanderings took on their extraordinary purpose. The cottage sat on 3 acres of land that appeared completely ordinary during daylight hours. Just overgrown grass, a few wild bushes, and an old greenhouse that hadn't been used in decades. But when Elena walked these grounds in her sleep, they transformed into the most magnificent garden imaginable. Her grandmother had left behind only one cryptic note: "The dreams that people throw away don't disappear, my dear. They wait patiently to be remembered. Someone must tend them, or they wither and die forever. You have the gift, use it wisely." Elena had dismissed this as the rambling of an elderly woman, but now she understood that her grandmother had been the previous guardian of this impossible garden. The sleepwalking garden existed in the space between consciousness and unconsciousness, visible only to those who could navigate the borderland between sleeping and waking. Each night, Elena's sleeping mind would guide her outside, where her bare feet would find paths invisible to her waking eyes. In this dream state, she could see the garden in all its glory. Thousands of luminescent plants that grew from the forgotten dreams of everyone in the surrounding town. The garden was organized in a way that made perfect sense to Elena's sleeping mind, though she could never quite remember the logic when she woke. Childhood dreams grew in one section: towering sunflowers that had sprouted from 5-year-olds' wishes to be tall enough to touch the clouds, rose bushes that bloomed with the dreams of little girls who wanted to be princesses, and fruit trees heavy with the dreams of children who had wished their backyards could be magical kingdoms. In another area grew the dreams of young love, delicate flowering vines that represented first crushes, passionate red blooms that had grown from teenage dreams of finding their soulmate, and weeping willows that held the dreams of those who had loved and lost. These plants required the most careful tending, as they were both beautiful and fragile, easily damaged by neglect or harsh weather. The professional dreams occupied their own corner: sturdy oak trees that had grown from childhood dreams of becoming doctors or teachers, colorful flower beds representing artistic aspirations, and climbing roses that reached toward the sky from dreams of making a difference in the world. Many of these plants showed signs of neglect, as their dreamers had abandoned their hopes for more practical pursuits. Elena discovered that she could sense when new dreams were being discarded. She would feel a gentle pull in her sleep, guiding her to a bare patch of earth, where a tiny seedling would be struggling to take root. These were the freshest forgotten dreams: a teenager's abandoned hope of writing a novel, an adult's dismissed wish to learn piano, an elderly person's dream of traveling to places they'd always wanted to see. Her role as the garden's caretaker involved more than just watering and weed. Elena learned that forgotten dreams needed specific care to survive. Dreams that had been abandoned due to fear required courage, flowers planted nearby to help them grow strong. Dreams that had been dismissed as impractical needed reality moss to help ground them in possibility. Dreams that had been forgotten due to heartbreak needed healing herbs to help them bloom again. The most challenging plants in the garden were the nightmare weeds, the dark, twisted growth that sprouted from dreams that had turned bitter with disappointment. Elena had to carefully remove these without damaging the healthy dreams nearby, transforming the negative energy into compost that could nourish new growth. She learned that even the darkest abandoned dreams could be transformed into something that helped other dreams flourish. As Elena became more skilled at tending the garden, she began to notice changes in the people around town during her waking hours. The baker who had given up his dream of writing poetry suddenly started composing verses again, After Elena spent extra time caring for his withered dream flower, a teacher who had abandoned her childhood dream of painting began taking art classes after Elena transplanted her forgotten artistic dreams into richer soil. The garden had its own seasons and cycles that didn't match the ordinary calendar. Some dreams would hibernate during difficult periods in their dreamers' lives, only to burst into spectacular bloom when the person was ready to remember their forgotten aspiration. Other dreams would flower briefly, sending their essence back to their dreamers in moments of inspiration or sudden clarity about what they truly wanted from life. Elena discovered that she could influence which dreams received special attention by following her intuitive guidance while sleepwalking. If she felt drawn to spend extra time nurturing a particular plant, the person who had originally dreamed it would often experience renewed interest in that forgotten aspiration. A middle-aged accountant's long-dead dream of becoming a musician began to stir after Elena spent several nights carefully pruning and feeding his dream tree, and within weeks he had bought his first guitar in 20 years. The most magical section of the garden was the memorial grove, where the dreams of people who had passed away continued to grow and flourish. Elena learned that these dreams could still influence the living world, inspiring others to pick up where the dreamers had left off. A young girl's dream of becoming a veterinarian, carefully tended after her early death, eventually inspired her little brother to pursue that same career path years later. Some nights, Elena would encounter other sleepwalkers in the garden, people whose unconscious minds had been drawn to visit their own forgotten dreams. They would move through the space like gentle ghosts, unknowingly reconnecting with parts of themselves they had lost along the way. Elena learned not to wake them, understanding that these visits were part of the healing process that allowed people to reclaim their abandoned hopes. The garden taught Elena about the different stages of forgotten dreams. Some were recently abandoned and could be easily revived with just a little care and attention. Others had been neglected for so long that they required extensive rehabilitation before they could bloom again. The oldest forgotten dreams had transformed into ancient trees that no longer belonged to their original dreamers, but had become sources of inspiration for anyone who encountered them. Elena began to understand that her sleepwalking wasn't a disorder but a quality. She was serving as a bridge between the world of forgotten possibilities and the waking world where those possibilities could still be realized. Every plant she nurtured in her sleep sent ripples of renewed hope and possibility back to its dreamer, even if they never consciously understood why they suddenly felt inspired to dust off an old guitar or write in a journal they hadn't touched in years. The garden also revealed to Elena the interconnected nature of human dreams. She discovered that some plants grew better when grouped with complementary dreams. A musician's forgotten dream thrived when planted near a poet's abandoned verses, while entrepreneurial dreams grew stronger when surrounded by dreams of helping others. The garden was teaching her that individual dreams were part of a larger tapestry of human aspiration and creativity. As seasons passed, Elena's own relationship with dreams transformed. She became more aware of her waking dreams and aspirations, more careful not to abandon them carelessly, more understanding of how precious and fragile human hopes could be. She started a dream journal, recording not just her sleeping dreams but her waking ones as well, making sure none of her own aspirations would end up as forgotten seedlings in someone else's care. The most beautiful discovery Elena made was that the garden was not just about individual dreams, but about collective human potential. When she stood in the center of the garden during her deepest sleepwalking states, she could sense the vast network of possibilities that existed when people remembered and pursued their forgotten dreams. She saw how one person's reclaimed aspiration could inspire others, creating cascades of creativity and hope that could transform entire communities. Elena's sleepwalking garden became her life's work, though she could never fully explain to anyone how she spent her nights. During the day, she worked as a counselor, helping people reconnect with their passions and aspirations. At night, she tended the invisible garden where forgotten dreams waited patiently for their second chance to bloom, ensuring that no hope was ever truly lost, and that the seeds of human possibility would always find a way to grow, even in the darkest soil of abandonment and neglect. The garden reminded Elena Every night that dreams are never truly forgotten. They simply wait in the space between sleeping and waking, tended by those who understand that human aspirations are too precious to let wither away, too powerful to let disappear, and too beautiful to exist anywhere but in the magical ground where sleep meets hope and forgotten becomes possible once again.